Movies are, and probably forever will be, the primary form of creative expression. Some of the greatest narratives that were shown to us were probably done in this format. Movies are always expanding and reaching new heights, but it's kind of crazy how it wasn't until kind of recently where we really started to reach the peak or start climbing towards it. In 1960s, there were no giant CGI purple rock collectors. It was just realistic westerns, and don't get me wrong, those movies were really good, but it all started to kind of blend in. It wasn't until the early 80s or 90s where we really started to innovate with how real our storytelling can be. In 1977, we got Star Wars, which was a landmark achievement for film because of the special effects and production design at play. It was insane for 70s standards. George Lucas went through huge ups and downs and risked almost everything just to have his vision be put on the big screen. Jurassic Park, which came out a decade later, had masterfully done CGI and huge scale animatronics so Steven Spielberg's vision could be put on the big screen. And that's really what a movie is. It's a vision. It's supposed to be a vision from one guy trying to do something special, something he or she thinks is worthy enough of being put on the big screen. But what if a director's vision isn't about just a narrative, but a controllable narrative, one that can be controlled by anyone? And that's where video games come in. Now, instead of watching the moon scene from E.T., you get to literally control it. But you can't because, the game didn't have that scene. But, in theory, that's really cool. The vision in this case is split between the director who's directing how the scenes all come into play, and the player who dictates how they play out. Now enter Ultima, Dragon Quest, and Final Fantasy. I mentioned E.T. before, but these games were true first examples of how you can mix narrative with control and gameplay. In Dragon Quest, the main goal is to save the princess from the dragon, but if you really wanted to, you don't even have to meet her once to beat the whole game. In Ultima, there's this narrative where one second you're trying to stop an evil wizard from conquering a kingdom, and next second you're a space ace in outer space trying to build a time machine. What? All of this control and freedom while still fitting the larger narrative was fantastic, but it was still missing something. Gameplay wise, most of these were repetitive turn-based combat, and the amount of dialogue can be sort of annoying at points. So for the time being, the money was really on platformers with 2-sentence stories. But then in 1993, Nintendo used the FX chip, and with Argonaut pumped out the first fully accelerated 3D game, Star Fox. And it was insane. You can actually see everything in the game, and your SNES console wouldn't catch on fire trying to render it. A few years later, Nintendo came back with the Nintendo 64, and the visuals actually looked really fucking good. You can now see all the sides of Mario's face and not just go left or right, but all 8 directions. So now the technology is here, the visuals can be on point and still retain the sense of control that makes a game so great. The graphics can be ambitious, the gameplay can be ambitious, the setting can be ambitious, and when you have all of those, you can make the story just as ambitious. This game was considered the greatest game to grace the earth when it came out, and for a good reason. It had the gameplay, the visuals, the characters, and most importantly, the story. The story of Metal Gear Solid was this huge mindfuck that somehow mixed politics and tactical espionage with identity crisis and mental breakdowns. If Metal Gear Solid was a movie, it would be panned for being unfocused and messy, but that's what made it so great. It wasn't a movie. Movies physically can't hold espionage, fourth wall breaks, plot twists, and more in a 2-hour package. Only games that take 11 hours to beat can comfortably hold all that content. Gameplay took multiple strides in letting the players sneak around Shadow Moses however they like. You can knock on certain objects to attract enemies, come from behind and confront them directly, stun them with stun grenades, choke them. Compared to today, your options were pretty limited, but at the time it felt like you could do virtually anything. But that narrative was the main appeal of Metal Gear. It's what made the game stand out in the first place, and it was awesome. You're playing as a secret agent infiltrating Shadow Moses, and you're fighting cyborg ninjas, floating fourth wall breaking psychics, and your own brother. And as crazy as that may sound, compared to Sons of Liberty, that shit's child's play. Metal Gear Solid 2 takes a complete 180 after the prologue, where it completely changes the main character, setting, villain, and even becomes a meta commentary about the digital spread of information and how control is the most powerful tool in society near the end. How the hell did this go from technical espionage to...
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
And just like its predecessor, you can really only do this in a video game. There's a speech the Colonel gives to Raiden near the end where he really goes into excruciating detail about control in society, and at one point he says,
You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success. Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts.
It's at this point in the game where you question if the Colonel is talking to Raiden or if he's talking to you, the player, and I don't think I need to explain, but I can really only do that in a game. But obviously, Metal Gear isn't the only narratively driven game, though it's the main focus of this specific video. There's more I want to shout out. Super Mario RPG. Now, is it fair to say this is narratively driven? I think it is. It's very dialogue heavy, and it's an RPG, so I think it's fair to say it is. And this game just oozes charm. The amount of slapstick comedy with these lovable characters, it's amazing. You're friends with a Cloud who thinks he's a frog, a puppet has a laser cannon, and he will never be in Smash. Bowser actually has a personality and all fits within the Mario universe because of its clever writing. I haven't beaten The Last of Us yet, but I'm playing it as I write this video, and I don't think I need to explain why people love this game. The writing takes center stage in a story about a father figure trying desperately not to lose something he's lost before, and what's crazy is that Ellie, a 14-year-old character, actually acts and talks like a 14-year-old character. I don't know how they did that. Before I get on to the last game, I just want to say that this will probably be a part 1 of multiple. I barely scratched the surface of what narratively driven games have to offer. But if I wanted to end this video off strong, I'd like to talk about this one. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game where what you say and what you do will somehow affect the narrative. You will either pay for your sins by the end or redeem yourself. It all comes down to what you want to do and accomplish. Red Dead 2 has themes of obsessive revenge and how you'll be saved not by yourself, but by the people who you love the most and care about you most. And I know I sound like a middle schooler trying to overplay something to get an A on their essay, but it's the truth. I'm grossly underplaying what this game has to offer, so I'll save what I have to say for a future video. But the narrative of this game is probably one of the best I've seen probably in my life, and I don't think I've ever been so invested in a game story since Kirby's Planet Robobot.